Good morning. Good morning, everyone. You're welcome. You're welcome. I can see 8 people. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining early. For our attendees, thank you. Drop your name on the chat, your name, where you work, your job role. And we know the people in the room. We'll give a few minutes. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining. It's first of its kind Peerless Horizon series webinar. You're welcome. My name is Muturai Ajayi. I head the People Operations in Peerless, and I promise you an exciting time during this webinar. Please let's keep the chat buzzing. Introduce yourself. Let's know the people in the room. If you can drop your name, where you work, and your job role, that would be amazing, so that we know the people that we have on this panel and on this webinar. Thank you again for taking out time to spend your morning with us. It's going to be an interesting session, I can assure you. We have amazing speakers that has been specially selected to have this engagement with us today. And without further ado, there's going to be a poll shortly, but before I go into that, I want to use this opportunity to introduce our session, which is titled Powering Growth, Core Platform Innovation and User Adoption in Emerging Markets. I mean, you would agree with me that emerging markets are at a critical inflection point, where technology, creativity, resilience intersects to drive new opportunities. However, at the heart of this growth is not just the innovation of these platforms, but the ability to ensure adoption, ability to ensure that we scale and have meaningful impact for businesses and communities. Today, in this webinar, we'll be exploring how organizations are rethinking their core platforms to unlock efficiency, build resilience, and capture growth opportunities, while also addressing the very real challenge, which is user adoption, and then scaling in fast evolving markets that we have today. We have, like I mentioned, an incredible lineup of speakers and thought leaders that will be sharing insights, their experiences, their wealth of knowledge, and practical strategies. So I encourage you all to listen, engage with questions. Feel free to drop your questions using the Q&A icon, and take away all the ideas that can help you reimagine possibilities in your own organizations, in your respective organizations. So without further much ado, I'm going to be dropping the poll. We have a poll, so I want you to click on the poll. Just give me a minute to share the poll. So click on the poll and you'll see the question. Please help answer this question. This poll will be open till the end of the speaker session so that we can dimension your answers. So please participate in the poll. Just click on the poll from your screen and answer this question. Which area of innovation is your top priority for the next 12 months within the organization? Please answer this question and be very deliberate in answering these questions because we are going to be dimensioning your answers. Let me check the chat. I'm sure that the chat is buzzing. You're welcome. For the new joiners, thank you for joining. It's a pleasure to have you with us on here today. While we interact and while we engage further, I would like to introduce our able and amazing speakers for today. But before that, I thought that it would be proper for me to properly introduce myself. For people that are just joining, thank you once again for joining. My name is Motunraya Ajayi. Like I mentioned earlier, I head the people operations, and this is a big profile of me. I'm a transformation HR and digital business leader with deep expertise in corporate services, people and data analytics, as well as change management. As head of people operations at Peerless Software Global Services, I champion human-centered initiatives that shape workplace culture, foster talent growth, and drive organizational impact. I'm formerly the group head of corporate services and digital transformation at the Sterling Financial Holding Company. I've led innovative and focused projects, inclusive of the transformation solution that Sterling is currently using, CBAS. I was part of the implementation team. I have MSc in Human Resource Management from the University of Wales. I have certification in project management, change management, and digital business transformation. I bring strategic vision and operational excellence to every role that I participate in. I'm very passionate about mentorship in community development as well, and I inspire a lot. So that's basically a short introduction of me. Like I mentioned, I would like to also now go to, welcoming our speakers and then introducing our speakers before we delve into the main topic of today. I'll start by introducing Ladi Asuni. Ladi Asuni is one of our amazing speakers that we have lined up and is going to be presenting on user adoption and platform innovation in emerging markets. He is partner and head of tech platforms within the advisory services practices of KPMG West Africa, Nigeria, where he leads enterprise technology initiatives with a focus on core banking platforms and digital transformation. He is a recognized digital thought leader and a member of the firm's payment advisory group. Ladi has over 20 years of experience. He has led projects across the financial services sector, covering core banking modernization, payment systems, enterprise system implementation, data governance and strategy, as well as financial services and digital strategy transformation. Join me in welcoming Ladi Asuni, our first speaker. I'll quickly introduce our second speaker as well for this webinar. His name is Suru Avose. Suru is going to be speaking on embedded finance and the future of identity. Suru Avose is the co-founder of Blusalt, a Fintech company focused on embedded financial infrastructure across Africa. Blusalt is creating scalable platforms that improve banking and payments, helping to build the future of financial infrastructure on the continent that is powering financial products. Blusalt's mission is to ensure every digital platform is fintech enabled by leveraging its innovative fintech infrastructure. Amazing, right? Welcome, Suru Avose, who is a second speaker for today. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and yield the floor to our first speaker, Ladi Asuni. Ladi.
Thank you, Motoraya.
Amazing. Morning. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to yield the floor to you now. Please share your screen and take it from me.
All right. Thank you very much. And good morning to our audience. Please confirm my screen is visible.
Yes, visible.
Okay. Thank you. Right. So thanks once again to the Peerless for giving this opportunity. And I'm here to talk about the theme which Motoraya has introduced well, which is really about core platform innovation and how it's enabling user adoption in emerging markets. I'll be starting my conversation from the sort of trends we're seeing across different emerging markets around digital adoption. I'm going to then go into the details of what are the things that are driving this adoption. We'll talk about the shift from legacy to modern core systems, and we'll then sort of wrap it up around what the value is you get from modernizing your core platform, and then what are the risks of inaction, why we need to act now. In starting, I'd just like to say that it's known, I don't think that there is any doubt about digital adoption gaining ground in most emerging markets. And we see the stats all over us, every day, whether it's the Q1 records set by the Nigerian electronic payments, hitting a record of almost 300 trillion in just first quarter of this year, which was about 18% growth over the transactions from last year. Similarly, if you go to Brazil, which is another emerging market, and Brazil has been in the news a lot lately from the president's visit, you see that they recently surpassed over 100 million customers in Nubank. And Nubank has grown and established as one of the foremost financial services, digital banks across the world. Similarly, when you go to India, their unified payment interface, which is the equivalent of our NIBS, a payment infrastructure that is enabling transactions, is already recording over 700 million daily transactions, about 10 billion transactions per month. Similarly, in Nigeria, we have also financial inclusion across most of the local government, most areas in Nigeria. In fact, an unprecedented growth that we can only imagine where we would be in terms of financial inclusion without that massive adoption of the mobile money agents. So I think what all these stats tell us is that digital is definitely gaining traction. In fact, digital adoption is driving a whole lot of inclusion, economic inclusion, as well as the thriving business community in most emerging markets, Nigeria inclusive. But what are the things that are really driving this digital adoption? There are various things, and I'll just go over a few of them. One is the mobile penetration. Today in Nigeria, more than 70% of the adult population have access to telephones, whether we're talking about smartphones, feature phones, and that connectivity, that shared connectivity has created that base infrastructure that has allowed financial services, a lot of digital commerce to get into the hands of millions of Nigerians. Similarly, as I said earlier, the rise of the alternate banking channels, which in the case of Nigeria is that agent network, that is really giving a whole push to how people are able to access financial services outside of the traditional brick and mortar. And then when we now go into interoperability and reliability, we've also seen a lot of comfort, around instant payment. A few years back, there was always a lot of doubt as to whether, digital payments, can really help to bridge that gap in commerce. But today, artisans, people from the mass market, the lower segments of the economy, there's general adoption. People are comfortable, and then there's growing trust. People believe that when they make that transaction, there are certain rails infrastructure that allow instant confirmation of your transaction. So that has built trust. People are able to rely. But I have to say, as a note of caution, is that the way the trust has been built is also the same way that it can be eroded. All it takes is for a major incident, and we've seen pockets of those type of things. And that's why financial service institutions really need to pay attention to that part of the trust. And an incident in Latin America where there was a security breach resulted in an erosion of almost a quarter, of the user population. And that just goes to tell you that trust is a very vital element. And last but not the least, there is regulation. Just as we've seen in Nigeria, regulation has played a very critical role in driving adoption, whether it was the cashless drive in the early 2003 that really 2023, I beg your pardon, that really helped to catalyze the emergence of a number of the giant agent networks that we see today. And that goes to tell you that regulation indeed can drive and catalyze growth in digital adoption, whether it's in payments or in other spheres of the economy. But as we talk about all this growth, right, and the drivers, I think there is that need to strike the right balance between driving growth, driving innovation, as well as the risk appetite. And what this goes to say that all of this needs the right type of technology foundation to really power and support that growth. If I can tell just a little example, we all saw the case in early 2023 when the CBN, forced that whole push towards the cashless because of the scarcity of Naira. We saw a lot of legacy players, technology really, constrained, really strained. There were performance issues. And at that point, what separated a lot of players and what created opportunities for new players were people that were able to provide steady, reliable, high-performing platforms. And that's what goes to tell you that, you see, some of the limitations of the legacy platforms and potential inhibitors to growth. One is because the architecture is quite rigid, monolithic architecture that don't quite support that rapid scaling when the need arises. Also, there are things around that ability to seamlessly integrate and drive that whole ecosystem participation we are talking about. Also, in terms of the processing of transactions, being able to give real-time, settlement, real-time processing of transactions, real-time analytics, because it's not just about processing transactions, also giving the people on the network that visibility into the sort of data, the sort of insights that allow businesses to respond in real time to the changes in the market. So you can see that all of these limitations of the legacy core platforms are the things that the modern cores are then trying to resolve by being cloud native, by being modular, by being able to scale in a responsive and agile manner. And of course, that real-time access to data, as well as that enabling culture, the DevOps culture that allows, seamless and quick change, as changes happen in the ecosystem. So these become very critical. And what we've basically seen in terms of the value of adopting such modern cores is that organizations that have gone in this direction have been able to move from, that limited, inhibited growth, inhibited agility, to being more responsive, being able to establish new revenue streams, being able to drive innovation in a more agile way. Some of those improvements can be seen in the improvement in their cost-to-income ratio, and in our line of work, as we engage with technology leaders, one of the things that you see is that just staying on that legacy application can easily result in organizations spending upwards of 70 to 80% of their technology costs just trying to patch things up and keep the lights on. But with modern application, modern core platforms, you are able to, spend your money in a way that matters and reduce that cost of running your IT. We've also seen accelerated product launches. In the example I gave earlier about Nubank, they've been able to scale from under 10 million to well over 100 million customers in a span of about 5 years. And you can only do that when you have the right platform. Also, there's also the value of operational efficiency, because when you have the modern platform that is supporting, the business across different areas, then organizations can, speed up innovation, can deliver new products to market in weeks, in months, rather than in years. And of course, the overall ability to drive your strategy. I've spoken about some of the cost of delay, which is the higher cost of operating IT, erosion of markets. If we go back to the incident I spoke about in 2023, that sheer inability of legacy players to rise to the occasion and scale with the demand of the day resulted in new entrants. At least 3 new entrants gained significant market share out of that incident alone, completely taking out some of the legacy players in the whole POS and agency business. Integration bottlenecks that you also have from legacy platforms, and the exposure, in terms of regulatory compliance, just because we cannot innovate, we cannot address regulatory requirements. It's a lot of lost opportunities when organizations are not able to respond. I think in closing, I'd just like to say, to do a recap, is that one, we've seen that emerging markets are moving fast, right? We've seen the scale and pace of growth both within the country, the region, as well as other global emerging markets. And the reality is that adoption is exploding. We've seen it, the data speaks to it, we can see it, I'm sure we feel it. Customers are not going to be loyal, or as it is today, customers are not loyal to brands. What customers are loyal to is the experience. Customers would easily gravitate towards wherever they are getting their transaction needs met. What's the risk in continuing to run legacy platforms? We've talked about it. It's that inability to respond to the market, inability to deliver solutions at the pace of the market. And then, of course, what are the opportunities that you get there? One, modern platforms deliver more than just technology upgrades. They drive growth. They help businesses scale faster. Running API-first architecture allows us to drive integration, drive collaboration in the market. And of course, with the right platform, the pace of innovation is going to be unparalleled. In closing, I would say that the evolution from legacy systems, to the modern core is not just something that is an option. It is something that most organizations would have no choice but to embark on within the coming months, because it's going to be one of the singular biggest factors that will determine, the leaders from the laggards. And I'll close by thanking you for your time, and I'm sure we'll discuss further. Thanks, Motunrayo.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ladi, for that insight. I mean, amazing. You can see the reactions from the audience. It was short and precise. I mean, you mentioned quite a few points that I really need to reiterate to our audience that are listening. You spoke about digital adoption, how it is gaining ground across emerging markets. You dealt on the key drivers of digital adoption and the factors driving the changes in digital adoption across different emerging markets. You mentioned about having the right and modern platforms that can really drive the innovation for organizations to enable them to launch their products quickly into the market. And you also reiterated the fact that emerging markets is really moving fast. And are we ready? Are we ready, to drive innovation with our legacy systems? Moving to modern platform is non-negotiable for the organizations that are going to thrive in today's world. So thank you for those insights, and it's an amazing session. Our audience, please feel free to drop your questions for Ladi. We'll come to it, don't worry. I'm sure you have a lot of questions for him. So just use the chat, the Q&A box to drop all your questions. I'll come right to it, okay? So let's quickly go to our second speaker, Suru. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Motunrayo, and thanks, Ladi, for that amazing presentation in enlightening us about how we need to take advantage of a new innovation, new platform in improving our services. And I think one brilliant thing that you said customers are no longer loyal to brand. They want someone that can meet their needs. And I think that's where I'm taking my presentation from, because in the world that we live in today, people want, when it comes to digital finance or digital services in general, I think customers just want who is the provider that can meet their need at the time that they need it. And if you cannot provide it and you disappoint them first time, second time, I think the next thing is they are talking to their peers, they are talking to their colleagues on, oh, I think I need this service because I've been using this one. I try to make payments, it failed, etc. So customers are not loyal to brand. They are loyal to who can meet their needs. Before I move forward, I want to thank the entire Peerless Global Finance team for having me, and also it is great for me to be part of this the Peerless Horizon series. I will be looking at what we do best, embedded finance, its growth, and what really is the future of identity and what is its impact when it comes to enabling digital finance. And I think when you look at everything that Peerless is doing with respect to rolling out CBARs, the modern core banking infrastructure, which is not only to provide entire banking capability, but to also bring to market something that is much more relatable, something that came out from we see come out from that. How is it going to go beyond the shore of being used by banks and then get into the hands of other sectors that are not financial institutions? And I think that's what embedded finance is all about. Embedded finance is about how can financial product be extended or be offered by non-financial institutions, organizations, etc. So I think in summary, at the end of the day, my session will be focused on understanding embedded finance. What are the opportunities there? How can we drive innovation to achieve it? How can organizations, especially like Peerless, look at it from strategic approach in making sure that they scale their platform, leveraging on the demand of digital finance so that it can go beyond use by banks or non-banking financial institutions like asset management, etc., into FMCG and telco, etc. And then what role does identity play? And then the use cases that we have seen globally. I like how they put into context the use cases that is driving the use of modern platform. And at the end of the day, maybe we have a takeaway that can help us in improving and in thinking about first, when we are coming into PLS, what can we ask from them? And also how PLS can also meet the need of the market when it comes to embedded finance. So I think embedded finance is something that has been with us for long. Every financial product, as we all know, are always offered by banks. But we have gone beyond that age. We've gone beyond where financial services can only be provided by banks. We've seen what fintech has done. We've seen what neobanks has done. We've seen one example from how one digital bank is able to offer, grow customer base to about 100 million in Brazil, that lady said, presented to us. And if we go all over in Nigeria, in our own climate, we've seen what had happened with fintechs, wallet service provider that have also taken advantage of not only offering financial products, but bring a lot of both payment and finance into one single platform that customer, either their individual customer or business customer, can use. So embedded finance is just typically how do you meet customer needs when it comes to financial and payment, and meet them at where they need it. You are in e-commerce platform. You want to get a loan, buy now, pay later. How can that be provided to you instantly? How can you be verified? How can that service be offered to you? You're using Uber. So all these services that we all consume today are part of the things that embedded finance has established for us in such a way that we are now able to consume financial services not only from the banks but from all digital platforms. And I think that's the most amazing things. But it comes with a lot of decomposing what is already in a structural format. So you want to think about payment. How do you decompose payment? You want to think about banking, deposit, a customer account, loan, ledger management, etc. How do you want to decompose all this in such a way that people who will not need everything to when just like bank will do, will be able to take advantage of it. And I think that's the evolution of moving away from traditional approach in providing financial services into decentralized way of how people can now consume financial services from any platform. So it's all about, when you think about payment, when you think about banking, how can we decompose them in such a way that we can now offer them insurance platform? You want to enroll for insurance, you want to receive your claims, etc. These are the advantage that embedded finance offer, and that's why the growth is very, very astronomical if you look at it all over the world. And when we look at it in our market alone, in 2021 in US is about 20 billion worth of market, but there's a forecast that globally is going to hit 7.2 trillion. And I think that with the new recent development that we are having, whereby every industry sectors is making sure that they are adding digital finance, digital payment into their platform, I think that it's going to even grow more than this forecast that we have of 7.2 trillion. Because if you look at Africa alone in 2021, it was about market of 1.1 billion. But when you look at 2024, 3 years down the line, especially when you think about all the way digital platform adoption came post-COVID, it grew all the way to 11 billion. And the forecast is that in Africa, it's going to be like 37.7 billion. But I think, we always have a way of going above when it comes to financial services in Africa. So it creates if you look at embedded finance, it creates a whole lot of opportunity for us to take advantage of economic growth that it has, the transformation that it has on the businesses, the growth that it has in different sectors, from insurance into government services, into FMCG, into every aspect. It creates a whole lot of opportunity. But how do we innovate around this opportunity? I think that always is the challenge, because things have been structured in such a way that you can use them in one particular way. But now for you to take banking services into an e-commerce platform, then you begin to think, how am I going to take care of KYC? How am I going to take care of regulatory compliance? How am I going to take care of being able to ensure that it is the right person that I'm offering service to? How am I going to be sure that I tailor the service to meet the need, so that I'm not really becoming another bank, but I'm only providing services? How am I going to make sure that credit facility can be offered at the time that it requires, buy now, pay later, like I mentioned before? I think all this is how we look at when you want to go on the journey of digital or embedded finance ecosystem. You have to think about it from, number one, the distribution. Then one critical thing about embedded finance is, like, you can't do it all by yourself. It's an ecosystem thing. right? So who is the technology provider? And then the digital, when it comes to embedded finance, in terms of enabling the digital capability that it can bring, there are providers which you can't take out of the equation, the banks. You can't take the bank out of the equation. So it's more of how you drive, take the existing service, build capability on it as a technology provider, and then extend it. So distributors that are really, really driven adoption in digital adoption of embedded finance are telcos. We'll look at some of these use cases. Marketplace platform, software platform who developed software before but think that, you know what, I can offer other services. Retailers are the largest consumer. We know Walmart, you go into Amazon, on all these platforms, Uber, they all offer, Apple, they all offer financial services. They are the center of distributing what we call the embedded finance, because they are meeting customers right at the point of their need when it comes to their payment and financial requirements in those services. The next is the providers. If you look at us like Blusalt, or you look at Marketer card issuing infrastructure, you look at in Nigeria like Anchor One Pipe, these are different institutions who are creating digital platform. When working with the real provider like the banks, like the Sterling Bank, like work with Peerless in terms of taking their CBAs, decompose it and come up with different way that at the distribution layer, they can layer these services based on the requirement of those industries. I think it is an ecosystem. So when you want to innovate around digital consumption of embedded finance or embedded payment, you cannot do it alone. You have to play the role of bringing everyone together. And we've seen how it happened in Nigeria with virtual accounts. How every bank today, every bank will have to go all the way to make sure that they are not being left out in creating virtual accounts. Then they provide it to Fintech, and Fintech becomes the channel in which it can be distributed into these different sectors. So in looking at it, not financial sectors don't have all the capability, the compliance requirement. So it is the duty of the technology provider, platform provider in the space of embedded finance to have that ecosystem approach where they will work with the real provider, the balance sheet provider that are being called, the banks, take the regulatory requirement, and then be able to tailor it to how it can work in different sectors that are direct point where consumers will be using the service, either they are business consumer or they are individual consumers, consumer for these services. So the revenue distribution is not into one hand. So when you see anyone playing in embedded finance, they create value for the entire ecosystem. They create value for the distributor to be able to serve their customers. They create value for themselves in enhancing technology, and they create value for the financial institution, card schemes, etc., that are the center of it. And that's the beauty of it. So when you want to go about the approach of innovating around embedded finance, or you are a digital platform provider and you need embedded finance, the product depth and the product breadth is very important. You have to choose between, do you want to offer multiple financial products, or you want to just focus on a niche market? There's a popular video that I like that says Fintech is 1% complete. I think that was like about 2023 that they were talking about Fintech is 1% complete. But sometimes when we think about Fintech, we think, with the scale and the size that we have seen, Fintech is almost at the saturation. No, when you look deep into every sector, what needs to happen in different sectors, from the SMEs into medium enterprise, into corporations, large corporations, financial banking themselves, they need to innovate around it to be able to meet the need of their customers. And then you think about government, corporations, then you think about countries themselves. In terms of the financial services that they need and how it needs to be served. I think there's still more work to be done when it comes to Fintech. And embedded finance kind of gives us that specialization framework to be able to innovate around product synergy and the growth and the support strategy that can be achieved if you have that deep understanding of the product and the breadth of how it can scale into different use cases. And when you look at it you also have to look at it from the different use cases, land and expert approach, where it's like when you take and a land and expand approach that you have to look at with the relationship to the users themselves, the user being the distributor who will offer it to their direct and customer. So you have to think about it. If I'm offering something insurance, what use cases am I driving? Is it about onboarding first? Then is it about having a virtual card inside of that I can use to provide my claims? Or is it about asset management company where we need to look at it that they will need customer details, they will open account, they are driving fixed deposit, they are driving recurring savings? Is that the only thing that I need to offer them? When you look at lending sector where they just need to see the customer, know the customer, and then you give them a loan capability and then repayment capability. So you have to look at it from the approach of what individual needs. And that is why is more embedded finance is not something you can offer alone. You have to create an ecosystem approach in which you are able to drive it. And then in terms of the sales, the servicing, the risk management, I think that's where the technology provider in embedded finance really have a lot of work to do, because you have to take the regulatory framework and embed it into the platform. You have to take the product and dissect the product in such a way that you know how these individual distributors, telcos, etc., are going to use it, and you cannot do it all by yourself. It is not a thing that you go to compete, it's a thing that you compete. It's like a cooperative competition whereby you combine all the ecosystem together so that you work together to achieve it. So the strategic approach towards designing and implementing embedded finance is more of something that you have to bring the entire ecosystem together to achieve a large growth. But what is driving it? What is the role of identity in this? I am now improving. We are now looking at asset management company in such a way that we want them to be able to leverage on what SIBA has done to be able to serve their customer better, rather than going through asset management infrastructure alone. You want to look at it that as an asset management company, ARM, Maritime, etc., different organizations, if you want to offer them the niche that they need to be able to serve their customers, from customer account creation point of view, from the now giving that customer a savings account or fixed deposit account, or ask them to do recurring placement or any service, or give even a card to those customers, where CBAR is powering those kind of services. There is one question: you can't take identity out of that equation. And all these platforms are also mobile enabled. So you have to think about it that how are they going to first and foremost be able to meet the compliance expectation? Either these customers are individual or they are businesses that want to do placement with this kind of asset management, using that as an example. Or in a lending space, you are doing corporate lending or you are doing consumer lending. How do you want to make sure that KYC? I think the KYC revolution and how KYC has evolved is what is really helping us in this area. If you think about what BVN achieved for us, the recent relaunch of a NIM platform by NIMC that is now bringing all the partner for ID verification into a new platform that is modern friendly, that is much more better than what they used to have before. Or you want to look at India, how are their ID revolutionized about 1.1 billion people coming into where they just have maybe 20 to 30 financial inclusion before, and then now they brought in almost all their population into financial ecosystem. Or you look at historically social security number, what it has done. I think digital service consumption when it comes to embedded finance require ID. And that ID has played a very significant role, especially from what we do in Blusalt, for instance, where we look at it from everyone that need to use our embedded payment or embedded digital wallet, for instance, or virtual account, first and foremost need to meet the KYC requirement of the bank. We've seen the large role from a mobile first approach, from making sure that we meet the central bank ID, or making sure that in the financial inclusion, NI is involved. We've seen how ID creates great opportunity in driving that innovation. And the identity itself play a revenue role for both the players in the ecosystem. A bank can leverage on their existing ID to help the technology provider in embedded finance space to generate revenue. Likewise, other traditional ID provider can collaborate with provider of embedded finance to also generate revenue. So it's all about how do we see the evolution of ID from the point of digital identity creation, biometric, etc., into ID verification, automated KYC like liveliness check, facial matching. How do we see all this? How do we see it? How it will transform account opening? Because everything about embedded finance is not different from how banks has operate. It's just taking that service of banks, take the infrastructure and then extend it. So KYC play a very significant role in that space in such a way that it helps streamline and embedded finance in driving and unlocking embedded finance. You have to look at it that KYC has to be streamlined from one-time verification to constant verification. If you're using some mobile app before you pay in Nigeria now, you don't have to official authentication is being used. So ID play a very significant role in how instantly people can consume embedded finance from non-banking platforms. And when you look at the use cases recently, Kenya Airways just launched co-branded card with a Visa. But we all know that co-branded card cannot be issued without a financial institution. That's like taking service of bank and extend it into transport, into travels and transportation, T&T area. And there's significant opportunity for that in Nigeria. Another one is recent collaboration with Calabash and MasterCard in launching travel card, where when you look at the pressure that the country has had when it comes to dollar and how the CBN has to always intervene when it comes to paying all the airlines. In launching this card, it means that individual can outsource for their individual agent, etc. Can now have a card whereby they will use to be able to make payment directly when they are booking tickets. And I don't know if we understand what happened in the travel sector. When the country is risky, the credit line that the airline they give to the agent in those areas is like 7 days. When the country is not rich, maybe they give them like 35 or 65 days. In Nigeria, our road is 7 days. So it means that we are constantly under pressure when it comes to how we always need to make sure that we pay the airline. So recently, MasterCard collaborated with Calabash. And the beautiful thing is that this whole infrastructure was powered by Blusalt. And that's power of embedded finance, where non-financial institutions are now providing financial services that generate transactions in terms of billions of dollars or billions of naira value. I don't know if you noticed recently with combination of Momo and also MasterCard and what my MTN app has been converted to, it is now an infrastructure for embedded finance, whereby you are not only paying for your airtime. Mobile Momo wallet is inside of my MTN app. You can fund it, you can use it to buy your airtime. There are now other digital services that you can use. I think the use cases continue. Safaricom, what we are seeing, and how they are now evolving it from just mobile money to now a full-blown financial product that they are linking card to it. Okay, we've seen what they've achieved, cheaper card. The use case go on and on, but identities are the core of all these things. Because when I go into airline, my international passport is already with them. They use it to validate me, and then instantly I have a co-branded card that I can fund and then be able to purchase, consume this services. That's how much value that we are seeing. And there are, I think I mentioned this earlier when it comes to what he achieved in India in terms of revolutionizing the entire space for people to consume financial services, lending, etc. In UAE, etc. If you look at how much services is being consumed when you look at how they've transformed that. At every instant, buy now, pay later. You can get buy now, pay later right at either you are doing a card present or card not present transaction is now available for you. And at the core of it is digital finance. Within these regional use cases, advantage that we see collectively to say how can digital embedded finance be utilized. And I think this section will not be complete without mentioning how AI is also going to play a very significant role when it comes to fraud detection, because fraud, when you open up infrastructure like this, fraud is at the core of it. People can come and play and pretend to be who they are not to be able to open an account and use it. And what AI is going to do in embedded finance and also in digital ID is how it can help accelerate fraud detection, power ID verification, because you can now aggregate the facial matching, the liveliness, other services, social media data, aggregate them to be able to understand individuals' pattern of how they consume financial service. And then credit scoring. I think this is an enormous opportunity when it comes to unlocking the loan, things that LensQuest and other people are doing. So it's a very significant opportunity. And the way it converged is like it converged both how we open account, how
Sir,
we can
sorry
use
to
cash services.
interject. Sorry to
Okay.
interject. We need to wrap up now so that we have
Oh,
enough
okay.
time for Q&A. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. So how a single platform can just drive entire payment, finance, and compliance. But I think I think the opportunity, when you look at what Peerless has done, how can Peerless enable embedded finance with their next generation core banking that they have built? And it's more of not offering it as just a core banking like we are seeing with respect to the existing player, but take it and use it for and structure it for different use cases. Do I need just account services, or do I need lending? Do I need just payment? Am I a new bank that I just need to take account and also take card and offer that? Do I want to offer things like loan where I need to combine account opening, lending, and collateral? Or do I want to offer FS where I need to make sure that I can take account and also maybe FS component? Or do I want to go into investment where I will need to take account and placement and investment instrument? Or do I want to be driving debt? All these are the opportunity that I think that Peerless can take advantage of leveraging on Sebas, the new or the next generation core banking infrastructure that they are built. I think the lessons is more of from account management, wallet, payment, remittance services, wealth management, insurance, retail services, into even the most recent stable coins, which is now going to be adopted. There is 7.2 trillion value in the market that is on the table. And I think Peerless can take advantage of what they have invested into to unlock that. So strategic positioning of it is always about how do you balance innovation and control? How do you want to create partnership? How do you want to make sure that the innovation is imperative in such a way that it's focused towards individual use cases? And of course, we can't take regulatory compliance out of driving embedded finance. The key takeaway are just simple. We see back investment into new digital or core banking that is modern, that is nimble, that is open. I think there's a lot of opportunity, and I think for the audience here, if you are a fintech, I think Sebas has created something that you can use to serve your customer better. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for that insightful session. In fact, now we know. Those of us in the room that do not know anything about embedded finance, I'm sure you have been able to understand all the value and the opportunities that you can leverage in embedded finance. I mean, as part of the key takeaway is the 7.2 trillion opportunity that you mentioned. Please let us all connect. Let us leverage on this opportunity within the embedded finance structure. I mean, amazing. You can see all the reactions from our audience. Thank you so much. You can stop sharing your screen now. We'll quickly go into the Q&A session. But before that, recall at the beginning, we had a poll. And it would be nice to see what people are saying about the question that was asked in the poll. Please, can we publish the poll results? Thank you. Let's publish the poll result quickly. Are you sharing your screen with the poll results? Okay, amazing. I'm sure you can see the results from your end. from the results, basically, the question was, which area of innovation is your top priority for the next 12 months? 68% of our audience mentioned AI and data analytics. 25% mentioned customer experience. 6% mentioned embedded finance. Can I take reaction from our panelists based on the responses received? Can you help us dimension this response?
All right.
Adi, do you want to go first?
Yes, if I may go first, I think it's an interesting response. It's no surprise. I mean, these days when you hear AI, it's the order of the day. So it's no surprise that a lot of people are really still trying to figure out how AI can really begin to translate to value for the organization. And just as I said in my presentation, part of the differentiators when you're talking about modernizing, one of those key areas where modern platforms differentiate is in your data capabilities, just that sheer ability to give deeper data insights, giving you more real-time data streaming, and allowing organizations to then have insights that they can plug into their AI machines, their AI models to give better results, drive product innovation, and the like. So that's no surprise for me. So I think this further buttresses, even though I can say nobody has selected legacy platform modernization, I think the fact is that is the foundation for your AI or data aspiration. And similarly, if I look at the second highest, which is the customer experience, that had about 19% of the votes. Again, I'll just borrow from my presentation. When we talk about the loyalty of customers not being tied to brand, it is tied to their experience. So it only makes sense for any forward-thinking organizations to be saying, in a very competitive, high growth emerging space, how do I differentiate? I think it really goes back to how you deliver more superior experiences, and your superior experience will be, combination of the quality of product you offer, the reliability of your digital digital channels, the quality of service in terms of availability, performance, and all, which again, I'd still say it rests on, having that modern foundation, that capable technology platform. So even though we didn't select legacy platform modernization, I think that all the other outcomes we seek is in that number one option.
All right. Thank you so much, Ladi. Interesting. I mean, one person, immediately you said people did not select legacy. One person voted legacy platform modernization. Boyega, I see your hand up. If you don't mind, please drop your questions using the Q&A so that we can take your questions. Thank you very much. Let's hear the insight from Suru on the poll. You are muted.
No one, sorry. I think from what we've seen starting from 2022, no organization wants to miss out from the evolution of AI and what its capabilities are. So, and for everyone to say in the next 12 months, I think our concern is about AI. I think I resonate with that perfectly, because that is what everyone is looking at. How can it change? How can I leverage on it to even change? What can it do with my legacy infrastructure? Is there a way that can take advantage of AI to improve or transform my legacy infrastructure? I think that's why it is at the core of everything. How can it improve my data? Recently, I was part of conversation with a telco, and what they were looking at is we have customer experience that we need to change. We have our network experience that we need to redesign. We have a lot of our data that are in different places that we need to aggregate. How are we going to take AI? I think every organization is now focused on what are we going to do in order not to miss out for the improvement when it comes to productivity and the new thing that we can do with AI. So I think AI taking 58% is something that I think is it's because of the era that we are in and what is required now. We talked in Blusalt, we were thinking about how can we apply AI recently. And we were struggling with a lot of aspects of its application. And I think in having a honest and open conversation, we were able to come up with use cases that can directly impact our business in terms of how can we improve how people consume our API. How is it that we can take completely having people available when people are using our API. It's AI is a conversation that is in every company, and I think what it will do is actually going to affect consumer experience going forward, customer experience going forward, and what it will do will help us rethink about our legacy infrastructure. What it will do, even in the embedded finance, the thing is, embedded finance is what we all use without knowing. So it has AI has impact in all the other three areas, and I think that's why every organization is thinking about how it's going to help them, and that's why it came at 58%. But the important thing is AI use cases are different in different organizations, and we have to think about how we're going to use it. We talked about our own developer, how it can help them improve, but not using it to always write all the code so that we don't end up with bugs that will impact our customer experience. We think about how can it help the product managers in such a way that it helps them to think more and leverage on other people's experience, because that's what AI is all about. It helps you to achieve. So AI has a great impact, but individual organizations have to think about how, not what you see with NVIDIA, what you see with ChatGPT or all other use cases or other players or providers that we have seen, but how is it going to affect my business and transform the product, the customer experience, and infrastructure that we're going to put in place. And I think any organization taking that direction are just thinking about the future and what it all entails for all of us.
Thank you very much. Insightful, very, very insightful. And it just shows the areas that people are focusing on within their respective organization. We have interesting comments from the chat and questions as well. So we'll just flow into the question and answer session. I want to read a very concise comment from Boyega Suleiman. He said, actually, the poll response focusing on AI and data analytics only reinforce the way other items can actually be improved. Embedded finance will benefit from the richness and intelligence from AI and data analytics, as is customer experience. So what he's trying to say is that everything is entwined. And it also raises the question that AI and data analytics, without a focus of how a business wants to use it, may just be following the head and popular trends. Thank you very much, Boyega, for that interesting comment. And it's so concise. It just shows that we need everything. One does not supersede the other. Everything is intertwined. Embedded finance, customer experience, AI and data analytics, as well as modernization of our products. It's so critical. So I'll go straight. Thank you, everyone that have, dropped their questions in the chat room. So I would go to Ladi first. This question is for you, Ladi. Looking around cost to income improvements, one of our attendees is concerned about the smaller guys, right? That's the smaller organizations. How can smaller financial institutions compete with larger players in reducing technology debt while upgrading their core platforms?
All right, thank you, Motoraya. I think that's a very brilliant question. And I think it's also linked to another question that comes down the line that talks about, the significance of cost. I think there are two ways to look at it, right? Sometimes the people that you call the smaller guys are actually the ones with the advantage. And why do I say this? sometimes, if we've all heard of that analogy of the speedboat versus the large shipping tanker, that agility that you want sometimes, that's agility to change is actually an advantage for smaller players. Why? Because when you compare smaller players to the large players, that's where you really have the highest technology debt, right? Because you see that, large organizations over the years, especially people that have been around, say, 30, 40, 50 years, you find out that they've built up such a spaghetti architecture that has all sorts of components, all sorts of interdependencies that just makes that thought of changing anything a nightmare. In fact, a lot of big organizations that we serve, there's usually that whole this is that I know it's a mess, but the truth is that I can't begin to start looking for the person that built this solution. So let's just continue to manage it. And you look at it that there's a long-term cost of inaction. When I made my presentation, I talked about how a lot of organizations that are still dependent on legacy applications are spending more than 80% of their IT budget just trying to keep things together. They are unable to respond to change. They are unable to make changes. And I think that's where the value of a modern platform, being modular, being cloud native, and being able to scale as you grow. There's that concept of saying pay as you grow. And I think that's a real advantageous point for smaller players. The other thing I'd like to say, and this speaking to the Suru's presentation, is that you don't have to go it alone. Part of the collaboration that an API-led architecture provides is, the fact that you can connect within the ecosystem. You can leverage banking as a service, whereby you are collaborating with party A for KYC and identity. You are collaborating with another party for virtual account. So it's basically now looking at how you orchestrate, interactions across different players within your ecosystem, because your focus is really just how you deliver service. And it shouldn't really be looking at it in terms of saying, I must build it all by myself. I must have all the capabilities. The future of financial services innovation is really tied to ecosystem partnerships and collaboration. And that's where modern platforms, really outshine the legacy platforms. And I'll just say that the smaller players don't think that you are in a disadvantage. You're actually in a prime spot to lead the change.
Thank you so much. I mean, you addressed two questions in one, addressing what smaller organizations, how they should position themselves to leverage on the fact that they are small and they can act quickly, unlike the big banks and big institutions that has to, go through several channels, several iterative, innovative sessions before they can even decide on what to do. And then leveraging on the ecosystem as well to manage their costs is also a fundamental. Thank you so much for that very concise answer. My next question will be to Suru, and it's from one of our audience. And the question is, how can businesses assess whether embedded finance is right for their model? Is there something they need to do differently to be sure that embedded finance is what they really need to thrive?
Thanks, Mutuai. I think that's a very brilliant question, because embedded finance, when you look at different sectors that have adopted it, is driven from the point of one, what are my customers looking for that I need to provide to them to become that one-stop shop for them? And where you need to look at it from is, number one, from the customer, because if you adopt a technology without knowing what customer want, then it becomes like technology that maybe you have to now develop a different way in which you want to provide it. So let's look at it from the angle of, I think recently Sterling Bank kind of a partner with is the CMG organization with their with wallet infrastructure, where people can use that to make payment while you are using the CNG vehicles. So the demand simply in that is where we need to provide ease of payment to customers that are using those vehicles. Or if you look at it from an retailer that is providing maybe virtual card, it's more like they want to improve on the experience. A customer has come to their platform, the customer wants to use their service, and they think that, oh, you know what, customers are always coming here and they need maybe their card are failing or something. Let's kind of embed virtual card into our infrastructure so that the services that we are providing to our customer, we can reduce maybe some downtime, etc., and improve on the experience. So embedded finance, when you want to adopt it, you have to look at it from one customer point of view. Second, you have to look at it from what impact is it going to make on your bottom line? Because at the end of the day, it also comes to revenue as well. So when you look at a software company that is always building maybe insurance product, by the time they add maybe digital payment, embed payment into that insurance platform, they've created another line of income. So it's, for me, it's more of customer demand. What are the customer requirements? How do you want to remove or reduce friction for the experience that the customer they are having when they come into your platform? And how do you also want to leverage on it to improve your income as well? I think all these three will now determine how you go about the provider that you want to choose. Maybe the provider is able to meet all these three requirements for you, or how you now want to go about the technology that you need to adopt by yourself to be able to meet this customer expectation. So customer expectation, customer demand is always changing, and you need to be at the top of your game to make sure that you reduce friction so that customer can have better experience. And then the income as well, revenue. Can it become a new source of revenue for you as well? I think those are the three key areas that you need to look at before adopting, and also picking a partner that will help you achieve these three areas that are more important in adopting embedded finance.
Thank you so much. Amazing. I just wanted to quickly ask Ladi a follow-on question. Thank you for that response, Suru. In today's world, you would agree with me that it's important that we balance innovation versus accessibility. And this question is for Ladi. How can we, how can platform balance innovation with the need to stay simple and nimble, and also accessible for users who may be less digitally mature?
All right. Yeah, thanks, Motoraya. Great question. I think when it comes to balancing innovation as well as the need to ensure that you're carrying everybody along, I think for students of innovation, you'd realize that innovation doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? In the principles of design thinking, you are not designing for the sake of it, right? We are designing to meet the needs of a market. And once we've established the fact that, look, this is the segment I'm targeting, and just to backtrack a bit, there's absolutely nothing wrong in defining your segment. I believe that the market is so large, it's not every player that would necessarily set out to cater to the needs of every persona within the market segment, right? So you'd have certain players that want to deal high end. You'd have players that want to deal, with the mass market, that may not be as sophisticated in their devices or their technology interaction. So innovation caters to all of this. If we look at some of the examples when we talked about explosive adoption in Nigeria, part of the problems that we've been trying to solve for the greatest time around financial inclusion, it's not until people, fintech innovation moved from just designing fancy apps to really looking at the challenge of distribution. How do we get agents? How do we get the mom and pops, within, local governments to begin to provide banking out of a handheld device? that we got to penetrate those parts of the market. And today, you know, you'd agree with me that that singular piece of innovation has driven adoption in the last 3 years more than a lot of the simple app, you know, based innovation that a lot of organizations have invested in. So that said, I think the real story of the matter is that when we innovate, we define who we are targeting, we test our innovation, right? And we see how users respond to it. The market is going to mature to a point, just like in Asia, where most of the people are able to do the QR-based scan app, and that has gone well with a lot of the population. But we've also seen African innovation. M-Pesa, you know, M-Pesa wasn't the most fancy. It was a simple chat-based payment, and it addressed the need of the market. In Nigeria, our mobile agent network is also addressing the need of different segments of the market. So I think innovation, when done well, you know, strings the need of your target audience and incorporates them in the product design, as well as, you know, how the products are tested. And ultimately, that way you can ensure that you are innovating for your chosen market segment rather than just casting a net blindly.
Thank you very much for that answer. Amazing. It's interesting to note that, you know, as we evolve in various spectrum of the organization that we play in, you said something very germane, defining your segment that you want to play in. That will enable you to assess the users that you want to, you know, launch your product to, and then you can be concise with how you launch your product to your targeted segment. And that will also help you manage your costs. And then, I mean, you, like Suru also mentioned, leveraging on the ecosystem in this time and age would really help most organizations to scale beyond what their own capabilities are within their own organization. So thank you very much. There's an interesting comment from Boyega again, Boyega Suleiman. And Boyega, your comment, is it a question or a comment? But I'll read it. It's interesting, actually. You said, my question is about how CBAS is evolving to become a near plug and play, especially the almost standardized CBA functions, then with a modular plugin of services in front as applicable to each fintech, just like we explored in this session, to further lower the barrier of entry, implementation time, and complexity. I guess the point Boyega is trying to stress is that we have, you know, platforms that organizations can leverage on. We have platforms where, you know, that has been modernized to be modular, that has been modernized to reduce the complexity around customization and also enhance the implementation time. Because if your platforms are modular, if they are, you know, very, very less complex, simple to use, simple to navigate, it makes it easier to implement, it makes it easier to launch to market quickly. And CBAS is actually that. So I must say that. Thank you for that comment, Boyega. Thank you so much. Suru, my last question is to you, because our time is actually fast spent. And the question is, bringing it closer to home, do you believe our foundational ID systems in Nigeria, which is NIN and BVN, are sufficient to truly drive embedded finance to full maturity?
Interesting. I think we've gone. If you look at the investment that have been made, either is BVN when NI was not able to be there. How NI has also looked at it that from the National Identity Commission point of view, they can't always be behind. I think we've now gotten it right that these two can become a driver for our financial inclusion. So every account that needs to be open now, from what CBN has the foundation that CBN has now, they need to take the reference data from NIN. If you want to have international passport or driver license, I think the first point of call is always NIN. I think the foundation is solid, and I can explain that it's now used in other industry. Telecom, you can have a SIM card now without you using your NIN, without you having an NIN. So I think we have laid good foundation. We just need to look at how well is this data, how well can we depend on this data, where they are not duplicates, etc. But I think there are add-ons that we need to these data element, NI and BVN, for us to make it sufficient. And I think that's what we are seeing now being explored in the country. You want to make sure that who owns BVN is the right person. So we're bringing things like biometric technology as a complement to make sure that that are used to reduce fraud or to reduce identity theft, which is liveness check, facial matching. Combination of these are going to help us take full advantage of NIN and BVN into full implementation in how it can help us achieve every area, use case that we need to have in embedded finance. And a typical example is financial sector. A typical example is telecom sector, which today you can't do without SIM card, without you having your NIN, and then you go through the process of facial matching and liveness. And what we have seen in other ideas were international passport, etc., even in insurance. And I think even in the new tax regime that government that is starting from October, you cannot, every Nigeria tax number is now going to be linked to NIN. I think the foundations have been laid, and it's just how we improve on them, how we reduce ID theft are the things that we need to add and ensure that the foundational data themselves, or the NIN especially, is clean enough to help us achieve all that we need when it comes to people need to consume financial services from non-banking platforms.
Thank you so much. Very, very, very insightful. I mean, we just have to leverage on what we have. NIN and BVN has been invested in, and I like the fact that we are latching on from, if you compare to 2-3 years down the line when we first started, it wasn't it at all, but now everything is linked. You can't get a SIM card without an NIN. You can't have a bank account without an NIN. You can't have an international passport without NIN. So by the time we collate the data, I'm sure definitely we will get there. So, I mean, thank you for that insightful, answer. So, quickly, our time is fast spent, and I want to use this opportunity to thank our amazing speakers. Please, a round of applause, virtual applause for all our speakers. They have done justice to the topics. They have done justice to answering all our questions. And I mean, it's exciting times. I'm sure the conversations are not ending here. Feel free to connect with them on LinkedIn and reach out to them to ensure that we continue this conversation. It's not ending there. And just before we close, I want to drive it home that, part of the solutions that we offer in Peerless is to address all the concerns that have been raised in today's topic. Having embedded finance, having modernized technology, modernized platforms, which is for core banking, having a platform that is enhanced with AI and digital analytics, as well as customer experience. I want to quickly share my screen as we close this session. Just give me a second to share my screen. Just a minute, please. I want to quickly speak to how Peerless is strategically positioned to bridge the gap, as well as to solve all these problems that we have engaged in today's session. We have amazing solutions. First of all, our mission is simple: to give businesses the competitive edge to be truly peerless. And our vision is to craft customer-driven solution. The emphasis is on customer-driven solution to enhance business successes. So we have an amazing bouquet of products that has been intentionally built to address all the concerns that have been raised in the room. Talk about modernization, talk about customer experience, talk about a platform that is full of AI and data analytics driven, as well as embedded finance. We have CBAS. CBAS is our core banking modernization solution. It is modular, it is user-centric, it has all the ethos that we have cautiously built into the product to enhance the scalability. It is modular. You can connect, the products are broken down within CBAS for you to connect into. We also have Mizan. Mizan is the Islamic core banking solution for you. It's a core banking system that Islamic banks are using to transact and address their customers' problems, and then it's a solution that is carefully curated to enhance the way at which transactions are being processed, user centricity, and also very friendly to use. We also have Kusala. Kusala is a business process management tool. It's simply automating workflows, automating approval. This cuts across industry. This is a solution that you can use across your various industry to automate your workflow. There's no coding required. It's easy to use. The UI UX is amazing, and you can customize your workflows, customize simple approval process as you need fit. Feel free to plug in. We also have Explorer. Explorer is our customer relationship management tool that is curated to properly curated to ensure that you have all the customer insights and analytics that you need to address your customer issues. And this is also a solution that is built to address the regulatory requirement from CBN in terms of logging cases and exposing the data and the reports. There's a regulatory requirement for all banks now to ensure that they send reports on all their customer-related issues to CBN. And this solution is curated to address that problem. Like I said, we're crafting customer-driven solution to enhance business successes. That's what we have. That's what we do at Peerless. Please feel free to book a discovery session today where we can expose the features and the quality of each of these products to you, how the products are designed, speak to you about our product ethos, how we have carefully curated this product to address, customers' problems and enhance business successes. There's a link in the chat. Please check the chat for the link for you to book your discovery session today. In closing, I would like to say that it's important that we take all the lessons that we have learned today from this session, the challenges that our expert has discussed. It's important that we have solutions that are carefully curated and engineered to solve these problems. For those of you that are looking to modernize your core banking infrastructure, we've got you. We have CBAS and we have Mizan to address that problem. For deep actionable customer insights from your data, we have Explorer to solve that problem for you. To streamline your operations, your reconciliation issues, and And to manage the entire lending life cycle, we have Kusala. You can build your workflows on Kusala. Like I mentioned, you can build your approval processes on Kusala. This is an ecosystem. Let's leverage on, our core competencies within the ecosystem, as we have discussed. Let's enhance our knowledge across all spectrum, and let's ensure that you book. You remember, I said we dropped a link in the chat, so make sure you book a discovery session with Peerless today. Lastly, you will receive a recording if you register to be part of this webinar. We've got you. We're going to share a recording of this session and a one-page overview of our product ecosystem in your inbox later today. So please look out for that communication that we're going to be sharing with you. And then you can re-listen to this webinar to, drive all the content and ensure that we leverage on the conversation that we've had today. Thank you very much. It's been an amazing session. Apologies that we used more than the allotted 1 hour time, but it was interesting conversations. It was a time well spent. We used 30 minutes beyond our projection. So apologies to our participants. Thank you for staying till the end. Please feel free to connect with us on our social media handles. Please, can you help me drop all our social media handles on the chat so that we can connect with us today? Feel free to connect with us on social media so that we can take the conversation beyond this webinar. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you again to our amazing speakers. It's been an insightful session. Thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge with us today. And like I said, the conversation does not end here. People will reach out to you on LinkedIn, so please ensure that you also respond to them. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day. For now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.